Drew McIntyre starts off the show. Oh my God, this first segment. So he's in the ring. He said that last week was all or nothing for him. He needed the title and he doesn't have it. He said he cost himself the match by overextending Seth's leg so that it was on the rope. Perhaps they're right. And maybe I am the one holding myself back. Maybe I need to step away for a while. And this crowd does boo. They're like, oh, we don't want you to leave. But he also realizes he didn't lose straight up. It was Damian Priest that cost him the match. And he asks Damian, why didn't you wait till after the match? When I was weakened, you screwed both of us. I mean, again, logical points from Drew McIntyre here.
Very logical.
Damian
Made no
did
sense.
He did leave with the briefcase. So, he didn't completely blow it. But could have had a better plan for last week. Then he notes, maybe I should just leave for 9 years and then I'll get a hero's reception when I come back. And with this, he has heard enough. Out comes CM Punk and he walks down and calls this Piper country here in Oregon. And he thought for the occasion, Drew might wear a kilt. He says that Piper and me are both known for talking. Is Drew? Because that's all that Drew does. And I admit, from a guy that might talk too much, but he tells Drew, whatever you have to say it to my face. So Drew is ready here. He congratulates Punk because you've lasted over a month here. Because a lot of us in the locker room, we've been betting on when you're going to crash and burn. And I don't care what you said while you were outside of this company. I understand you needed the attention. You needed the headlines. He said, I care about what you do to me personally. And I was one of the few on this roster that has traveled the world with you. I know the real CM Punk, the guy who walked into the locker room and said, as the locker room leader, which is a story that has been dropped several times. You have heard this mentioned.
From who? Anyone? Like a bunch of not Drew, we're saying.
Not Drew. I know I've heard this story before. I don't know if it's been specifically like named as Punk, but I've definitely heard this one about the line of like, who calls himself a locker room leader? You shouldn't have to call yourself the locker room leader. And that's what Drew stated here. He said, at that time, I was young in this business and I needed a leader. And my career was in a tailspin, but you didn't help me. You saw me as a threat. And I spoke to Randy, but Randy was dealing with his own demons. You, Punk, you don't have demons. You are a demon. And then said, I got fired and I had to figure it out for myself. And after 9 years, I'm your leader now, kid. Just a great line. Great promo here from Drew.
So good.
So this was excellent. And
like in particular, like I thought the Randy mention was very interesting because like it wasn't completely necessary for this promo and this interaction between Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, but him mentioning, I shared a locker room with you and I have grievances with anybody who was supposed to be a leader at the time. And I've already addressed this with Randy, and Randy gave me a very valid excuse. Whereas you, CM Punk, you don't have a valid excuse. I mean, at least to me, it just feels like a detail that makes that entire story feel that much more real from Drew. Like, I buy it because there's no real point in perhaps, or at least like making up a small detail like that.
Yeah, and actually, like the timing of it too is like Punk leaves in January, and Drew gets fired like in June of that year. Like it's very close in proximity that they both leave the company, and they tie it in here of like how one guy came back and now the other guy's trying to do the exact same thing. So Punk's rebuttal said, "I never called myself a leader because I always led by example," and asked, did you need to be held by the hand? Because if so, maybe you can join the straight edge society and we can shave your head. He said that he watched Drew leave this company and then saw you return bigger and better. You won the Royal Rumble. You headlined WrestleMania. Now I'm coming back and trying to do the same thing. Why would you be upset about that? I'm not a demon because when I'm pushed, I'm Satan himself. And I'm a really nice guy until it's time not to be. And I'm here to win the Royal Rumble and headline WrestleMania. So Drew points out, I've already headlined WrestleMania when you haven't. And I stepped up when this company needed me, when the world needed us. And when the going gets tough, Punk gets going. And if you're the devil, I'm going to exercise you in the Rumble because I'm in it too. And I'm going to headline WrestleMania, but this time I'm doing it for myself. So Punk says, I'm going to lead by example and leave before I knock your teeth out because no one, not you, not Seth, not Cody, is going to stop me from winning the Rumble. And just for you, I'm going to throw you out last. Dude, this was just a great segment to start the show.
So great. And I feel like Punk probably called his shot. Like, I think that's probably the scene you might see at the very end here, with Punk winning by throwing out Drew last. I can certainly see these two coming down to the final two because I think Drew feels that hot right now. My best character of 2023. I thought he was amazing in this segment. They've suddenly added another heavily anticipated matchup to their already growing roster of matches that
this could be night 3 of WrestleMania.
Enough. Yeah. Would that be the real main event now? Night
WrestleMania 3? Week.
But like last week they just added The Rock versus Roman Reigns. Potentially, The Rock versus whoever, right? Cody versus Roman is still out there, of course.
I'll tell you, if Punk wins the Rumble, this could be his reason for Elimination Chamber is like Drew and Punk in that at that February show.
You could do it there. Yeah. Now you throw Drew into the mix, and Drew versus CM Punk is suddenly a match that feels very main event worthy on any of those shows. Maybe not night 2 of WrestleMania, but an Elimination Chamber main event, certainly. I actually felt like this was a really interesting pairing because to me, Drew McIntyre is a much more of a CM Punk character than CM Punk is right now. He is the guy who is so full of rage and he's never satisfied, and he brings it out through I think this sort of intensity on the microphone. He's always after somebody because he always feels like he's being wronged, and he always feels like he's being targeted. And if you look at it at a certain way, maybe much like the Phil Brooks of old, he is always somebody who has somebody else to blame but himself. So I found this dynamic very interesting because I tend to find myself, again, agreeing with Drew McIntyre a whole lot more, whereas CM Punk, I feel, is continuing to have issues trying to hang on to this voice of the voiceless character and this reputation that he's been known for. Since coming back to the WWE, it feels like he's been anything but. We hear baby faces on this roster, like a Seth Rollins specifically, pretty much call him out for being a hypocrite. He is coming across right now much more like Dwayne Johnson, coming in, taking a spot from a younger guy, and not necessarily coming in because he's hungry to want to make a name for himself in the way like a Drew McIntyre might have been when he busted his ass on the indies before making it here. So I again feel like number one, this is a very hot segment. You got like a real feeling of like tension between the two, but I think the ultimate form of CM Punk continues to be as a heel who is embracing maybe a lot more of this sort of like heel, like these criticisms from people in the locker room like Drew McIntyre.
Well, that's fine to be planting all this stuff. Now would not be the time to be getting to that destination. But come the summer, like when the bloom is like this is still he's still got the brand new car smell when you
I don't even
come
think
off the lot.
Personally, I don't even know if it's intentional, John, like right now. I think that's the direction they can ultimately pivot towards because it feels more natural for Punk. But I just see Punk right now in these sort of promos, especially against somebody like a Drew McIntyre, as kind of tough to buy. Like they don't feel as genuine and as authentic as like, the CM Punk I'm used to because the backstory doesn't add up.
Well, I think what you like about these characters is that they're trying to present like these as close to authentic stories with probably some dramatization attached to it, but it should be like we're kind of following the crowd's cue of like, where do they go with this? And instead of dictating to the crowd, which was sort of like the MO for so long, instead it's like, okay, see where the audience takes us. Like here was this crowd, like Drew has clearly been presented in like this I wouldn't even say subtle heel light, like a pretty distinct heel light, but with logic attached to it. And when
with
he
very good reasons for
exactly, and you can see
the
like
turn.
there is a divide there because when he said, "I'm going to leave," this crowd wasn't cheering. They do not want this man to leave. So it's like you have to leave it open to that. My last question on this is how about months and months of story all culminating here? And one of the left field picks revealed himself to be the devil. He said it right here on national television.
Was it such a left field pick? I feel like there are plenty of people that were still suggesting it, even after seeing him on at Survivor Series. CM Punk is the devil. I'll tell you what,
they ran with this as his nickname on television, the devil, CM Punk.
Yeah. I thought that was a great line from Punk. You know,
it was great.
I'm not the devil, I'm Satan himself, and I thought that was the most real thing that CM Punk said in this promo. I'm a very good guy. I'm a very nice guy until it's time not to be a nice guy. And we know this about CM Punk. He could be your most loyal friend in the entire world, but if you get on his bad side, he will be your biggest enemy. And there are plenty of examples of that.
So there you go. Oh, excellent segment. I thought this was the best thing on the show tonight. And this was a good episode of Raw, but I thought like the show quality wise, like this first 10 minutes or so was just tremendous.